How are you, my friends? It's wonderful to be back. I just wanted to say on a really proud moment for me and for all of us, we have just ticked over the 60,000 viewers, and that's just amazing. And I'm so thrilled that together we have done this. And thank you very much to every single one of you who has liked and subscribed and has commented, and your comments are amazing, and thank you for encouraging me on this journey of exposing the worst elements of the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Pennsylvania, aka Jehovah's Witnesses, and its destructive path. But thank you very much. It means the world to me, and as I've said before, certainly my lifelong goal is to be able to, if possible, meet as many of you in person as possible over the coming years. So I don't know how we'll all do it, but I certainly plan on traveling OS next year. So we'll just see where that happens. But I'd certainly like to meet as many of you as possible. I'm very grateful for the over now 60,000 viewers. I really genuinely appreciate it. So getting back to the discussion that we had in my last video, which was on the helpers, and may I say thank you for your overwhelming response and also the messages that I've received, which I see has certainly got you thinking in terms of where Watchtower is going and where their ruling elite are taking this organisation. So what I thought we would do is have a look at one of the members, which I promised, one of the members of this group, of the helpers, and that is a chap by the name of Isaac Marius. I hope I'm saying that correct. Isaac Marius. Now, he is on the all-powerful writing committee. Now, just taking us back to the Royal Commission that we had into abuses within the non-for-profits and so forth, going into religions as well, where we had poor old Jeffrey Jackson, member of the governing body, who famously said of different policies of Watchtower that he wasn't aware because he was involved in the translating committees, not in the teaching departments. But here we have one of the helpers, and he's on these writing committees. So if you're involved in the writing committee, maybe you'd know a little bit more than poor old Jeffrey Jackson. Now, the theme of this this video is the dark arts of the helpers. Now, what Isaac does in his very laid-back, laconic style is put forth the ham, cheese, and tomato of what the helpers are going to do, the style of their programming and the style of their teaching. So in this approximately 10-minute video that we find on jw.org, I know people say, Matt, don't direct people to jw.org, but it has to be as factual as possible. I don't want you to go there, but if you want to, please do, and just check up what I have said so you can, of course, check for yourself what on earth this Isaac Marius is saying as one of the helpers and a member of the writing committee. Now, the dark arts, hopefully I'm able to at least do justice in this small video as to what on earth is going on. And I think once we have a look at this, it may not surprise many of you, but for any new ones looking, it will at least be thought-provoking as to what on earth is going on in terms of the behaviour of this highly manipulative group, and I hope to be able to demonstrate this. Anyway, Isaac Marius, in his very laid-back, laconic style, presents what I think is probably some of the most disturbing teachings, propaganda, and mind tricks you could possibly get. Now, the 10-minute little discourse, or part of that discourse, I'm sure it's longer than that, is apparently taken from Hebrews, the Bible book of Hebrews, chapter 12 and verse 6. And the theme of his discourse is benefit from Jehovah's discipline. Now, for those of us that are Christians, when you have a look at the Bible book of Hebrews chapter 12, for instance, in verse 6, yes, it talks about disciplining and God disciplining those that he loves and so forth. But when you read the chapter, it is in sharp focus for Christians to be focusing on Jesus Christ, and that the faithful Christian would not lose sight of their salvation in Jesus and also their heavenly hope. Now, first of all, and I say this ad nauseum, and I'll continue saying it for every single video until it changes, is Isaac Marius cannot even get the words Jesus Christ to come out of his mouth. This 10-minute propaganda piece is completely alien to the idea of Jesus Christ as our Lord and Saviour as Christians. So it sets the tone. This discipline isn't coming from Jesus Christ, it is coming from Jehovah. And I think that's a really important thing. And it's certainly, if you are a Christian, it is certainly worth reading the Bible book of Hebrews chapter 12 to get the context of it. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep a straight face here and not... Anyway, he says, this is Isaac, this is what he says, my dear friends. He says, we need to get... I can barely keep myself contained. He says, we need to get the right view of discipline. Well, that's good, that's for sure. Nothing wrong with discipline. We all need it. Athletes need discipline. Professional people need discipline. We all need discipline. Nothing wrong with that. That's a very important part of our life to have some form and structure. But he says, look, we want to get the right view of discipline. And this is where the dark arts, which beggars belief that this man honestly thinks that he can get away with it. This is what he says. We need to get the godly view of discipline. I'm just paraphrasing here, so it's a bit difficult just to give it verbatim. But he talks about the worldly view of discipline. And he said that he refers us to two dictionary definitions of discipline. And he says, I'll just turn my page. He says, this is the worldly view. Discipline is a means to gain control. Wow. Second quote. To make people obey and punish when they don't. Okay, so that's the worldly view. Worldly view, which is, he says, discipline is a means to gain control. Secondly, another dictionary definition is make people obey and punish, that's when they don't. Okay, so, and he says it's so different from Jehovah's way. And that's interesting, isn't it? I know there's going to be my friends who are like, well, Matt, this will be... We want to see this difference now. So the worldly way is by means to gain control. And this man, Isaac, the helper, in the writing committee is going to tell us that Jehovah's way, Jehovah's organisation, is not based on gaining control and on punishing people. So different. Okay. Once he finishes saying this, and this is where I don't know whether they, and I mean this genuinely because I did study this in a previous life, but I don't know whether it is a hypnotic induction or not. But he says, believe it or not, my friends. Next, this is the worldly way of saying that discipline is gaining control and the Orwellian style. Okay, then he says of this discipline, there's three common reactions. And he says, number one, we should not. Okay, so the world apparently is using discipline to control you. It's so different with Jehovah's organisation. And then he puts 3 points forward. First of all, this is what you're not allowed to feel. So we're not gaining control. You're not allowed, you should not feel crushed and embarrassed. Or feel pain in your heart. And this is what he said. If you don't believe me, I know you would, but like a child that has a long face, don't react that way. We know that as mature Christians, we wouldn't do it. Okay. Can we see what's happening here, friends? The worldly view is to gain control and to punish people that don't obey. And we're so different with Jehovah's organisation and Jehovah's ways that he's telling us that when you're getting disciplined, how you're going to react. So you're not going to feel crushed. You're not going to feel embarrassed. You're not going to be like a child with a long face. And we know that as mature Christians, we wouldn't do that. Also, this is a direct quote, do not be overwhelmed. Do not be overwhelmed or feel sorry for yourself. So another person is telling you what your emotions are meant to be. You seeing this? I'm going to leave comments till later. Okay. Don't feel pain in your heart or have a long face like a child. Because we know as mature Christians we wouldn't react that way. Do not be overwhelmed. Okay, someone else is going to decide for you what you're going to feel. Or feel sorry for yourself. And then he makes this extraordinary statement. It's a miserable life fighting against discipline. So he knows and they know what your life's going to be like. Okay, that was point number one. Hopefully you can see a pattern emerging. Second point is a negative response. Okay, don't dismiss the council by saying, well, they don't get the big picture. And they could improve in the way that they went about the discipline. Okay, went about the discipline. This is the second point. So don't be negative. I'll go back to the point, the worldly view of gaining control over people and punishing people when they don't obey. And here, point number two is don't be negative. So we're being told how to react. Again, don't dismiss. So you're not allowed to dismiss. You're not allowed to say, this person doesn't get the big picture, and hopefully I'll have enough time just to go through some of the basic things that Jehovah's Witnesses historically have been hammered with by the governing body and why people would say that. I'll give you a clue. Education. And they could improve in the way that they deliver it. Okay, so you're not allowed to even say, when somebody takes you aside, that the manner in which they have spoken to you is not appropriate. I'll just get you to think about that a little bit before I go on. Okay, so that's number two. Okay, this is number three. I'll go to, just switch over. Oh, that's right. This is part of number two. This is beyond belief. You can't make this up. Okay? This is the dark arts at play, my friends. Our reaction, the negative reaction, which we're not allowed to have, is, and I quote, it's because it exposes what is wrong, and this statement is unbelievable if you take anything out of this video, is the reason why you and I would react in the unapproved way to this counsel is, and I quote, because it exposes that we love what is wrong. Let me read that again. Because it exposes that we love what is wrong. Imagine that. That's the reason why, right? That's the reason why. This is what Isaac has come up with. If this isn't the embodiment of the dark arts and the dark hand of Watchtower on free functioning human beings, and those profess to be those of those that believe in Christ Jesus, I don't know what is. Okay. And then he goes to psychoanalyze us, the listener, by saying that we don't see the big picture and that we would be relying on our own understanding, not on Jehovah's view. So what is being told to us is, in fact, that's Jehovah's will, and I'll get to that a little bit. I'll get to that in a minute. Point 3 of how we should, so we're being told here how we should react. This is the group that is not controlling us in any way. Okay, is by anger. Who do they think they are? This is what he's saying, I've been in the truth longer than this person coming to me. And he uses the word here uses an expression, and he talks about position in the sense of that someone that has been, for instance, and I put myself in this category, somebody that has got 4 generations of Jehovah's, or had 4 generations of Jehovah's Witnesses in their family, back to my great-grandmother. And my late grandmother died a faithful Jehovah's Witness, bless her, when she was near on 90 years of age. So that gives you an idea of the pedigree that my family has in that. Now, what they're doing is attacking people like us. Okay, someone that has been a Jehovah's Witness for a very limited time coming and talking to you, and it's clearly manifest that they don't particularly even understand their own faith. But he makes this extraordinary claim. He says, we might say, but if Jehovah spoke to me, never mind, Jesus Christ doesn't exist at all in this discussion, but if Jehovah spoke to me, yeah, I would listen. And then he said this, but this really is Jehovah directly talking to us. This is Jehovah really directly talking to us. What a claim. Not an imperfect person. And let's give credit where it's due. Maybe they're doing the best that they can. Maybe that's what they genuinely believe is the right thing to be doing. But they're just another human being that is fallible. They get the facts wrong. That's what we all do as human beings. But no, Isaac is saying it's really Jehovah directly talking to us. What a claim. Anyway. And then he says, to back this idea up, he says, there may be a very important reason why Jehovah sent that person, and this is where we're going. Oh, I'll leave it at that just for this moment. There may be a very important reason why Jehovah sent that person. Right? So this person is directly, and he says that Jehovah is directly talking to us by that person. Okay? No wonder there's the issue about you're in Jehovah's presence when the elders come and talk to you. Okay? This is what we're getting from this. Now, for those who have been following this conversation about the helpers, this is something very new. And if you've seen this before, please comment. I haven't. It's totally new to me, and is something that many of us have been looking out for. Because after Isaac says there may be a very important reason why Jehovah sent that person. That's the person that we might not feel is qualified or a good speaker or a good, basically they're not qualified, let's just be honest. And then he said, or agency. Very interesting. Or agency. Now, I've never heard that before. I've certainly heard the governing, talking about the direction coming from the all-powerful governing body. I've certainly heard direction coming from representatives of Watchtower. I've certainly heard them talk about the role of the elders in the Jehovah's Witness congregation, but I have never heard of the expression or agency. Agency. And that was deliberately put in. It is an unusual word in the Jehovah's Witness sort of lexicon, but let's keep an eye on this. Okay, we know what has emerged recently is that Jehovah's Witnesses have started using the word order, and many have picked up on that and have been able to talk at length about that. The order. Okay, and part of this order is its agency. Agencies. Not just agent, one person, agencies. So we have this compartmentalization of the organization. Okay, so it's agencies. Now, I'm going to go back, if I may, as I said that I would. This idea, I'd like to hone in on this, that when it comes to this idea that we don't understand the big picture. Okay. When Jehovah's Witnesses in the 1970s were very forceful in their idea about Jehovah's Witness couples not having children, very clear on that, is the consequences were devastating. When Jehovah's Witnesses, and continue to, have a outright hostility to higher education, in Australia we call that universities, I think in the US and so forth it's colleges, but we say universities here. And when I was growing up as a young man, I'm in my 50s, even having an apprenticeship to become a carpenter or any trades person, that was very much frowned upon. I remember a discussion that I had with a circuit overseer, which is a representative, a travelling representative of Jehovah's Witnesses. I was doing my apprenticeship as a painter at the time, and I was out in the ministry as a young man, and I was spending probably 4 days in the week, Saturday, Sunday, I think Monday and, Thursday, I think, as well. So the 4 days out in the ministry, and as well as doing my apprenticeship. And I remember the circuit overseer, the travelling representative of Watchtower, literally tearing strips off me that that wasn't the right thing to be doing. I mean, anyway, so they did change their mind on that, but It's actually the tautology. It's actually the dark art is the opposite. They don't see the big picture. They don't see the big picture. So they're covering their tracks. Everything that is clearly identified by the ex-Jehovah's Witness community and the impact of this on people's lives, the profound impact on people's lives, not being married, not having children, not having an education, while there's absolutely nothing wrong with for instance, having a trade behind you, not everybody is suitable for heavy manual work. Some people, and a lot of people, have got given a God-given brain that is more in sort of academic pursuits than being a bricklayer, for instance. Nothing wrong with that. That's just, we're all different. And there's a devastating consequence in the world that we live in, right, which unfortunately things aren't for free. You've got to pay for them. Okay, money does make the world go round. So if you do not have money, if you can't look after yourself, if you can't look after your family, or the work that you can get is of the lowest paid, I'm sorry, but there is going to be many hardships that you face when you look at the scriptures. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being a doctor or a dentist or a physiotherapist or a nurse or an engineer or an architect. There's nothing. These are just necessary things, and one's faith shouldn't even be brought up. So they are covering their tracks, because the fact is that there was a generation of people that have tremendously suffered, and there's many people that speak about this. Now, when we go to the idea of our reaction, is that we know that many elders, when it came to going to families or to individuals to talk about these things, right, were faced with very difficult conversations. Now, I know one person, when the elders came to them about that, they said that they had come from poverty or near on poverty, and that they never wanted to go through that, and they knew what that feeling was. Now, the fact of the matter is, believe it or not, is that takes a toll on the elders, because they know that what they're saying has direct impact on the listeners. You've got a captive audience. They're going to listen to everything that you say, or at least take it on board. Even a reaction to that counsel is taking it on board. Okay, even an angry response is still acknowledging there's a reaction there. So what they're actually doing is trying to shield the elders, the bearer of this, in many cases, completely unscriptural, unpractical, unreasonable decisions which lock people in to Watchtower. They're trying to shield the elders because, let's face it, they're getting stressed out. Now, going to this main point here, where Isaac says that the reason why, and it would go for the 3 points, but basically the reason why people would be upset and broken-hearted and angry, dismissive, defensive, is essentially that the helpers believe that those of us who do not accept everything, or did not accept everything that came from their mouths as direct communication with Jehovah, that we loved what was wrong. That really upsets me, because one of the reasons why I am not a Jehovah's Witness, one of them, many of them, was that I was in a congregation in which there was a dangerous, pernicious pedophile, and he hurt a lot of children. And I went to the elders over that, and I was angry, hostile, upset, distressed at their approach and the organisation's approach. Don't tell me I love what's wrong. My conscience at the time, although admittedly not being a Christian as I am today, I knew that these acts were disgusting, an abomination, and there was a cover-up. So please don't tell me that the reason why I was reacting is because I loved what was wrong. When it came to myself and others speaking up about domestic violence in the midst of Jehovah's Witnesses, when we spoke out against articles in the Watchtower, and I remember one very well publicised one where they spoke about a lady that went on a Bible study. I'm sure many of you will remember this one. And it said, and I remember it verbatim, that this lady, the Bible study, was feeling sorry for herself because the night before her husband had hit her, and that the faithful Jehovah's Witness woman encouraged her not to focus on him, but what she had done. This is an abomination. Okay? When Jehovah's Witnesses changed their mind on blood fractions, I remember it very, very clearly. Now, previous to that, I watched a Jehovah's Witness woman, Jane, die in the Royal Brisbane Hospital. Okay? Was it because I loved what was wrong, or we loved what was wrong? No, because what was being said was twisted. It cost people their lives. It was unacceptable. And that we as whistleblowers were not covering up things that we knew were wrong. We were fighting for what was right. Now, the fact of the matter is, I remember speaking at length to the elders of Jehovah's Witnesses and representatives about their time setting for when the end was going to come. Now, at that time, although being a rusted-on Jehovah's Witness, I knew that it was wrong to set dates for when the end was coming, because it was going to lead to great loss, to spiritual shipwreck, even that it wasn't what I thought it was, and that is that Jehovah's Witnesses were the truth. My intentions were that you didn't do things like that. What does Isaac say? It's because you love what's wrong. Okay? Now, Jehovah's Witnesses, by putting everything on Jehovah and basically telling people that the elders and representatives and people like Isaac are like a marionette puppet in which every move that they make is a direct result of Jehovah pulling the strings, is an abomination. It's an abomination not just to Christians. For those of you who are not that way, and the fact is this, that everybody understands that when you claim that your behaviour and your words and your actions come from a divine source, accountability goes out the window. Okay. Now, there's so much more that I could talk on, but I think I'll just leave it at that. And as I said, the discourse, which you can find on jw.org by Isaac Marius, I hope I'm saying that right, who is one of the helpers that we spoke about previously, that's on the all-powerful writing committee. So this man knows what he's talking about. And the theme of this video is the dark arts of the helpers. And I hope that this is thought-provoking, because this kind of sleight of hand, it's not really that sleight of hand, but this kind of behaviour is so dangerous and disruptive, and destructive, I should say. Okay. As I said, there is no mention of Jesus Christ, and it's very truthful because this, as Christians, is unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. I hope that you like this video, and please like and subscribe. And once again, thank you very much to all of you, my friends, right around the world for your love and support. And I'm very grateful that over 60,000 of you have watched my videos, and it's certainly very humbling. And with your love and support, God willing, I can continue producing these videos, which I hope are of benefit to you. And may I just say as a footnote, is any of you that have, well, your stories, not if you have, your stories matter. We need 60,000 more of you to get on to whatever social media platform, whatever platform whatsoever. Please tell your story, because this is effectively a life-saving mission. We don't know who we're going who it's going to resonate with. Okay, so your story is so important, and I hope, most importantly, that I encourage you to get online and to tell your story. We need as many of you as humanly possible to do that. So, the dark arts of the helpers. In focus, Isaac Marius. I'm Matt Christopher. Unconditional love to all of you. Until next time, thank you for being my friends.